Welcome everyone. This is Heather Carlisle, and I'm excited about our topic for this session. It's number 6 of 7 on the OuchRage series, the introductory series, and it's called Personal Power, Running Your Own Mind. I have oodles of stuff to share with you. This is one of the things that comes to the surface when we think of being too loose or too tight. And classically, we think about this as executive function, running your own mind. Also, it's being effective, competent, and focused. And this is underneath so much of the problems that we see when people have what we call ADD or ADHD. In essence, attention deficit disorder. And this is us being able to use our mind and pay attention with our mind. So of course, that's extremely complex. I'm always interested in your questions. If you type them, I can respond to it as best as I know how. This is extremely complex, this topic. And I want to show you if you look at this, the 5th layer of the model is what we're talking about tonight. This is part 6 because I did an introduction, and then this is the 5th part of the model, and we'll be doing number 6 next week and 7 the week after that. But notice it's personal power, it's structure, it's focus. And so if we look at here under identity, these are the basic human abilities that we all can develop just naturally if we have a good growing up environment where our brain is learning things at the time we need to learn things in a safe and good way. So this personal power, notice it says executive functions, will, restraint, planning, strategic working memory, strategic thought, that is, thinking things through with a strategy, decision making, being decisive, being competent, because we have to run our own mind in order to be competent. And so then we express that system, we master it, and I call that our purpose. And so with our own willpower, our emotional control, good habits, we're able to set goals, we're in touch with our own desires rather than responding to something just exterior to us. Action, taking action in an effective way, being persistent, having self-discipline, being decisive, being able to decide what we want and what we don't want, being precise, flexible, which means not too stiff and not too loose. Then we implement that natural ability that we have over here for our service, our mission in life. And classically, this has to do with success, with achievement, with accomplishments, effectiveness, efficiency, organization of materials, having a practical outcome, regardless of what it is that your talent set is or your will that is connected with desire and things we value, things we love to do. We're often connected with what we love to do. But if this particular system in our minds is not well developed, we may not be very successful with what we want to do. And so this is personal power, our ability to mobilize, to express, to do something with, to have power over our abilities and what we want to achieve in life. Now, of course, none of us is perfect. And I've been struggling with this classically because, as you can tell, I'm in my mind a lot, which means my ability to be successful is presenting. So I love the internet. I love being able to share with you in this manner. It's easy for me and it's something I love to do. So now let's look at, so these are the basic building blocks. So let's look at more detail about that. If we look at do you see we're looking at personal power here, this continuum? It goes away from healthy in the middle. One way it goes to a pushy and aggressive saboteur, because we sabotage ourselves with being too aggressive and too pushy. Or on the other end, we sabotage ourselves by being too entitled, indulgent, and passive. And so what we need to do is we need to be able to be flexible and let go of control. We also need to be able to grab onto control and make things happen. So this is the continuum of that particular skill set, our personal power. It's easier, so much easier, when we help our little kids with this. And they learn to do it very young, over and over, and then it's just second nature to them. And some of the people that you see in the world that are very successful and not being too stiff, not being too loose, but have that easy ability with using their skills and making the successful difference that they like, they're going to have good, what we call executive function. So let me show you now. I have quite a lengthy handout that I share with people when they want to know what is executive function. And there are several, of course, videos and websites that I recommend so that you don't have to look at the whole field, but find the good ones, because I am a curator. I find the good ones and I bring them and share them with you. So developing executive functions, if you want to know about this in yourself, in your kids, how to manage employees to help them become more effective, how to help you become more effective with your personal power, neither too loose nor too tight. So there are 6 general systems. Activation, organizing tasks and materials, estimating time, getting started. Sometimes that focus gets started and it doesn't stop. And that's one of the skill sets of executive function, is knowing when to start, not procrastinating, and knowing when to stop. So starting and stopping is one of those skill sets, and some of us haven't got that very well developed because our parents didn't realize how to put us in an environment where we would start and stop. I think that the Montessori schools are superlative at this. The second is focus. Focusing, sustaining focus, and shifting focus between tasks. That really is running your own mind, deciding to focus and deciding flexibly what you want to focus on. What is your priority? What's most important for you at that moment, at that time? And how long do you want to stay with it? Effort. Regulating alertness, sustaining effort, and processing speed. When you think about regulating alertness, some people are hyper alert and they're just driven and almost vibrating. Their alertness is so intense and so controlling, they're not regulating it. It's just full bore. And then, people where they, it's too much work, don't want to pay attention. What did you say? Well, I'm just daydreaming, which is not regulating alertness. And in a certain way, we think about that as being unmotivated. And of course, that's as a counselor, and I really enjoy working with students who are having a problem with motivation, whether they're school students or college students. A lot of that then is very connected with finding what we're interested in, because if we are either too controlling or too easygoing and not really focused, neither one of those is going to be brought to bear unless the person is very interested in something. Sustaining effort. So that's, and we know that you've heard that a lot, where success, this is one of the components that people look at, but unfortunately they look at it individually, not in this whole system of being persistent, of being forbearant, standing up with courage and bravery, you've seen those quotes where the talent really isn't there. It isn't as important as the ability to stick with it, to be persistent. Well, persistence is one of the things, but as we know, if we're too focused and too persistent and we don't know when to stop, then that's not going to be effective either. Processing speed. Intellectually, do you have the ability and the flexibility to just quickly pop through things? Or do you kind of get lost on rabbit trails in your mind? We want you to be able to do either one at your choice so that you self-regulate that. 4 out of 6 is emotion. As you've heard me say before, we are not our feelings. We are not our emotions. Emotions are a response to what we think. So if we want to manage our own mind, we can then manage our own emotions. So managing frustration and modulating emotions is an intelligent choice. It's part of executive functioning. Isn't that interesting? As I mentioned last week as well, it's part of emotional intelligence. And of course, I'm separating these abilities out, but they really are woven together in our minds. Not that I'm thinking, okay, I'm going to use my emotional intelligence today, and then I'll use my executive function now. But we can take it apart in this way so we can understand it easily, and therefore you have access to running your own mind, because our mind is the beginning of who we become and what our life looks like. So we want to be able to manage frustration, and that means when we're little, as parents, we want to make sure that when our children are frustrated with those encounters with futility, that we show them there are ways of handling that where we don't need to just stay in the direction of being frustrated or controlling or resistant. How do we become mentally flexible? Isn't that lovely? It's artful, really. Okay. Then number 5, memory, using your working memory and accessing recall. So this is one of my pet peeves with we haven't, in a certain way, and I'm a saleswoman, right? So I have to sell, and I sell things that I think are very valuable. And one of the things that I find with a certain section of my clients in the population is a resistance to writing things down, a resistance to keeping a daily planner or a calendar or some method. I've got right here, because it's the beginning of the year, this is one. Now I try to be consistent with my calendars and having one subject in each one, because classically when we're taught competency in this manner, we want the same thing written down in one place so that we're not trying to find things again. We're then not managing our information in our memory. But I have developed over the years a way that works for me, but it has to do with writing things down. And one of the things that I remind us of, writing things down means I refuse to use my mind as a filing cabinet. Just memorizing things or keeping track of things, you know how some people don't want to use a calendar and then they're remembering their appointments and their commitments just with their working memory. The way I see that is I'm then wasting my working memory, my creative mind, as a filing cabinet, just to try and keep track of what I'm supposed to be doing today or the next hour. With a calendar, with things written down, all of that data is right there accessible. And especially now when my calendar is on my phone, so much of it just goes with me every day. And it doesn't have to be like I used to have a beautiful Franklin Quest day planner. Loved that thing. But now I've become more efficient and I know my style. I know what I need. So I'm suggesting, if you're not writing things down in a way that really works effectively, that you really like, I would like you to consider how you need to write things down. I'm gonna get my purse here. I'm gonna show you one of my things where I write things down. We call it a capture tool. So this is my current capture tool, and it's in my purse. And if it's a guy, it's probably smaller than this. And I give these to clients in my office who don't have one. But this is my favorite type. And of course I've got my name and address in here because it's capturing valuable information. So I will put all kinds of things in here. I'll glue in business cards. I'll make notes to myself. I capture the good stuff that comes to me, whether from the exterior or the interior, so that my working memory is now free to receive more quality information. If I can capture it in just data written down, then I will put it in my capture tool or on my phone in either my notes or my calendar. Those are the two things that I typically use. So writing things down is a way of storing data without wasting my working and creative mind, so that my creative mind is free to do higher levels of thought. In essence, by writing things down, I'm deciding to run my own mind. Okay, let's go back to this. So we were just talking about memory. Accessing recall. Now, in my office over there, I have four drawer filing cabinets, and they're all labeled, so I know where to find stuff. I also have four or five cabinets in the garage because I've been doing this for a lot of years. And that's why I'm a curator. That's why I teach like this. I've assembled endless amounts of information. And if I want more detail, I know where to go because it's written down. I don't have to try and memorize all that. Okay. Which means why I can be flexible and improvisational and responsive to you. Now, the last piece of this way of understanding executive function is action. Monitoring and regulating actions. Okay, am I going to schedule this? Do I need to get ready to do this now? When do I need to go to that meeting? When do I need to make a phone call? When do I need to pick up my child from school? When do I need to meet somebody for the golf cart? Action. So personal power is action. Using your action. Not being impulsive, not being too stiff or too tight, but being able to freely use your human abilities. So this particular document that I'm just showing you the first page is actually 18 pages long of information that I've collected when I need this information for a client. So if you want my documents, I love to share them with you. So now I want to just look at how our ability to do that is disrupted. So, and remember the dilemmas where it's a continuum? Well, here is a little description. It's kind of dynamic because I make it that way so that it makes sense right the minute you look at it. These in down the middle, you're familiar with those because I've been teaching about them, are the 7 healthy developmental needs that we all have. This is for a child. So this is how we are disrupting these 7 basic needs, and this is the roots of disempowerment for us. And it happened in childhood, which means there were things missing in our childhood. Our parents were missing certain things, and we are. So we want to know this to be kind to ourselves, but we always want to know this as well for the little ones that are around us, whether they're our children, our grandchildren, our neighbor kids, our students, our kids' friends. So notice today we're talking about the number 5, and this is focus. This is the regulated child. We don't expect our children to regulate themselves, because this is truly a skill set, and we learn it by being taught, demonstrated, and by experiencing things that use our brain in this manner. So this child that is regulated by a good childhood has self-control, good memory, flexible thinking, they make intelligent choices, they have pretty good judgment, they're pretty orderly, timely, well-behaved, responsible, and disciplined. So doesn't that sound like a great kid? And so then we've got the continuum again. Over here is the sabotaged child, and then on the other side is the indulged child. So notice we've got too tight and too loose. Personal power is not managed. It's locked, or it's just not there. So the sabotaged child has been too harshly disciplined, punished, too tightly structured, criticized, controlled. The parent may be addicted, and the child may try to control everything if that parent is out of control, or if that parent is aggressive and violent, then the child is going to try and control by retreating, and therefore their energy and their sense of competence is compromised and sabotaged. On the other side, the child that is indulged, where a child is too undisciplined, becomes too entitled, they have no limits, they're unregulated, they don't have structure, they're irresponsible, and the child then makes their own decisions rather than being guided by a wise adult. So, and this is the one that is very sad. Oftentimes, a parent is trying to compensate. When one parent is too aggressive or controlling or punishing, then the other parent will be too passive and lenient and let the child have whatever the child wants, rather than schooling the child on how to get real success and competence. So this is the roots of disempowerment in terms of being focused, and this is the roots of ADD. So let's look at another one. This is when you grow up. So the adult, the achiever, if we're a good achiever, we have good personal power, then we have executive function that is successful. We have self-control and self-restraint. We're orderly, timely, well-behaved, responsible, consistent, goal-oriented. We have flexible thinking. We're focused. We're accomplished. We're successful. And, none of us is perfect. So then check in with yourself. You may be both the aggressive saboteur and the passive saboteur, or one or the other. So the aggressive saboteur, we become too controlling, and we have inside of us a punishing tyrant, where we may punish others and be too aggressive, or we may have that tyrant beating up on ourselves inside where nobody sees it. That one is a tough one. I know how to work with it, but it's so sad when people beat themselves up inside. They're too strict, they're too stiff, they're way too critical. We shouldn't be critical, that's unkind. Harsh, with harsh discipline, punishing, perfectionistic. That kind of sounds like a robot, doesn't it? Well, we don't want to be that stiff. It's inhuman. Then on the other side, the passive saboteur, when we're too entitled, and then we become an indulgent slacker. And that looks like low motivation. Sometimes it's low motivation based on this particular personal power element, which is we are entitled and we are indulgent, we're undisciplined, impulsive, unmotivated, unstructured, shut down, uncommunicative, and indulgent. So that's the people who want it to be easy, right? At any rate, I'm wondering if you're seeing yourself in either one or both of these, because this is where we lose our power. We lose power in lots of ways by humanity, but this is the core of wielding our own mind and then, of course, mastering ourselves and how we want to live. These are examples that I've put together, just a quick touch on, well, what do we do? So here, we want to clarify our priorities, write our goals, get a vision board, a new good habit, be on time, replace your bad habits, and then get action steps so that you can finish the tasks. Create the action steps and tasks that suit you so that you can get it done. Accomplish your goals, manage your time, achieve success with talents and projects. So that may take some doing for you to get there. I also wanted to show you, before I let you go, this wonderful resource. Now, it's called understood.org. It's a collaboration from 25 different nonprofits for parenting and rearing children. They all came together and created this marvelous source on the internet. So here is, there's a chat with an expert coming up on January 28th this year. So learning and attention issues, see this pull down all of these things, schooling and learning, feelings and friends, you and your family, community events, your parent toolkit. This is stellar. Their view of executive function, which is personal power, as I've been introducing it to you this evening, or in this session. You may not be listening to this in the evening. These 3 sections, which is a lot similar than the ones that I just went through at the beginning of this particular presentation. Working memory, cognitive flexibility, which means flexible thinking, and inhibitory control includes self-control. So this is understood.org, and there are endless amounts of practical information about this, and also methods that help you not only manage kids but manage yourself. And then, some people come to me or call me and they say, I've been diagnosed, or I've diagnosed myself with ADD, ADHD. And so, immediately some people think about a medication, and my heart sinks. I don't want you to use a medication, and I don't want our kids to be medicated. I want us to mentor our children and ourselves so that we can run our own minds and do it with enjoyment and curiosity, interest, because when we find something that's valuable to us, it's an easy way to learn to be motivated and to be focused, to develop your executive function because you flat out care. So I hope that this has been kind of an opening door as I've curated these focused things, and that it gives you an interest in finding another piece that you want to access of your personal power. So thank you for tuning in, and please, if you would like my handouts, Jack is putting them on my website as a free download, because I want you to have the information that I've gathered over the years. It's better in your hands than on my computer. And so, as always, know yourself, treasure life, and love others.